What if Anakin Skywalker, the boy destined to bring balance to the Force, didn't wake up one morning and decide to become a monster, but instead made 1,000 small decisions that each felt reasonable at the time? What if Darth Vader wasn't born from hatred, but from love taken too far, fear left untreated, and power offered at the worst possible moment? Because that is the real tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. His story is not about a villain discovering evil. It is about a hero discovering that fear is easier to live with than grief, and that control feels safer than acceptance. This is not a tale of sudden betrayal or cartoon villainy. It is a slow, painful collapse, and that is why it still hurts decades later. The boy who wanted to save everyone. Anakin Skywalker begins life as a slave on Tatooine, a place where survival is harsh and childhood innocence evaporates early. Yet even in this environment, Anakin is defined by kindness. He helps strangers without expectation. He risks his life in pod races not for glory but to provide for his mother. He dreams not of power but of freedom, his own and everyone else's. When Qui-Gon Jinn discovers Anakin, the Force itself seems to bend around the boy. His potential is unprecedented. He is called the Chosen One, a title that sounds noble but functions more like a curse. From that moment onward, Anakin is no longer just a child. He is an expectation. The Jedi believe they are saving him. In truth, they are removing the only emotional anchor he has ever known. Separation, fear, and the wound that never healed. Anakin leaves Tatooine without his mother. The Jedi see this as necessary detachment. Anakin experiences it as abandonment. This single moment becomes the emotional fault line running through his entire life. Every nightmare he later has, every desperate choice he makes, traces back to this loss. Anakin does not fear death in the abstract. He fears being powerless while the people he loves suffer. The Jedi teach him discipline, meditation, and restraint. What they never truly teach him is how to grieve. And grief, when ignored, does not fade. It waits. The Jedi Order's quiet failure. The Jedi Order is not evil. It is ancient, well-intentioned, and deeply flawed. Its philosophy is built on emotional balance, yet its structure is rigid. For most Jedi, this works. For Anakin, it does not. Anakin feels more than others. He loves harder, fears deeper, and reacts faster. The Jedi interpret this intensity as danger rather than difference. Instead of guiding him through emotion, they attempt to suppress it. This creates a dangerous pattern. Anakin learns that honesty leads to judgment. Vulnerability leads to restriction, so he adapts. He smiles when expected. He hides when necessary. He obeys outwardly while struggling inwardly. A hero who cannot be honest becomes isolated, and isolation is fertile ground for manipulation. Padmé Amidala. Padmé Amidala is not Anakin's weakness. She is his refuge. Their bond forms in war, deepens through shared trauma, and solidifies into love that feels safe and grounding. With Padmé, Anakin is not the Chosen One or the Jedi Knight. He is simply a man allowed to be human. But the Jedi Code forbids attachment, so love becomes secrecy. Marriage becomes deception. Happiness becomes something to protect rather than share. This secrecy matters. It transforms love into pressure. Every kiss carries risk. Every moment of peace is shadowed by fear of discovery. Anakin does not learn to balance love with duty. He learns to compartmentalize. People who compartmentalize pain rarely resolve it. They delay it until it explodes. Palpatine, the voice that listens. Chancellor Palpatine does not seduce Anakin with promises of domination. He seduces him with validation. Where the Jedi doubt Anakin, Palpatine praises him. Where the Jedi caution restraint, Palpatine encourages confidence. Where the Jedi ask him to let go, Palpatine asks a far more tempting question. Why should you? Palpatine positions himself not as a teacher, but as a confidant. He listens. He sympathizes. He frames Anakin's frustration as proof of greatness rather than instability. Most dangerously, Palpatine reframes the Jedi not as flawed mentors, but as obstacles. By the time Anakin realizes Palpatine's true identity, emotional dependence has already formed. Betraying Palpatine feels like betraying the one person who truly understands him. That is how manipulation works. It does not create desire, it redirects it. Visions of death and the return of fear. When Anakin begins to see visions of Padmé dying in childbirth, his worst trauma resurfaces. This is not abstract fear. This is memory repeating itself with a new face. He remembers his mother screaming in pain. He remembers arriving too late. He remembers powerlessness. Anakin does not interpret these visions as warnings. He interprets them as challenges. If the future shows death, then the future must be changed. And if the Jedi cannot help him do that, then perhaps the Jedi are wrong. This is the moment where fear fully eclipses wisdom. Anakin stops asking whether something should be done, and focuses only on whether it can be done. The illusion of control. The dark side offers Anakin exactly what he wants. The promise that death is optional if one is strong enough. This is the great lie at the heart of his fall. Not that power exists, but that power can replace acceptance. Anakin begins to believe that love requires dominance over fate itself. That letting go is not enlightenment, but surrender. And surrender feels too much like the day he left his mother behind. So, when the choice comes between trusting the Jedi or trusting Palpatine, Anakin does not choose evil. He chooses certainty. The tragedy is that certainty is easier to sell than truth. The moment the Jedi fall. When Anakin turns against the Jedi, it is not a sudden personality shift. It is a psychological breaking point. Once he commits betrayal, retreat becomes impossible. Guilt hardens into justification. Doubt turns into rage. The identity of Darth Vader becomes easier to inhabit than the shattered remains of Anakin Skywalker. The attack on the Jedi Temple is not just mass murder. It is symbolic self-destruction. Anakin eradicates the part of himself that once believed in restraint, mercy, and balance. What remains is efficiency, and efficiency does not ask questions. Mustafar, the last chance to stop. The confrontation on Mustafar is the final crossroads. Padmé arrives not with accusations, but with hope. She believes Anakin can still come back, and for a moment, he almost does. But fear speaks louder than love now. Anakin interprets Padmé's concern as betrayal. He cannot tolerate the idea that she might choose the Jedi over him, or worse, that she might see what he has become. The duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi is not about ideology. It is about loss. When Anakin falls into the lava, the symbolism is unmistakable. The fire does not create Darth Vader, it reveals him. The birth of Darth Vader. Encased in armor, stripped of sensation, and consumed by regret he cannot admit, Darth Vader is born. The suit keeps him alive, but it also ensures that pain never leaves him. Every breath is mechanical. Every movement is labor. Vader becomes a walking monument to his own failure. The Empire gains its enforcer. Palpatine gains his weapon. And Anakin loses everything he tried to protect. Why Anakin's fall still matters. Anakin Skywalker's story endures because it is not about fantasy. It is about human psychology. It is about what happens when institutions fail to adapt to individuals, when love is treated as weakness, when fear is hidden instead of addressed, when power is mistaken for security. Anakin does not fall because he is evil. He falls because he is afraid, and because someone convinces him that fear is strength. That is why his story resonates. Because it does not ask, how could someone become Darth Vader? It asks something far more unsettling. How many of us would do the same if offered the power to never lose again? If you enjoyed this deep dive into Anakin's tragic journey and want more cinematic breakdowns of the galaxy's darkest moments, make sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it means you won't miss the next story where legends fall, power corrupts, and the Force reveals its most uncomfortable truths.